All right, today we're jumping into a huge question, maybe one of the most personal ones when it comes to climate change. When things really start to heat up, where do we even go? We're going to break down a source that gives some very direct advice for our future. So let's just dive right in.
So the source kicks things off with this question right here. And you got to notice the tone, right? It's not some big abstract, how will humanity adapt? No, it's where do you go when global warming is nipping at your toes? It makes it personal, right from the get-go. And that really sets the stage for what is basically a practical guide to, well, what the author calls climate migration.
Okay, so before we can even talk about the solutions being proposed, we've got to get a handle on the problem itself, at least how this source lays it out. And really it all boils down to one thing: the incredible speed of the changes we're up against.
And this is where the source draws a really powerful contrast. Think about this. It took 100,000 years for the climate to naturally shift by about 2 degrees. But in just the last 200 years, which is, a blink of an eye in geological time, we've already shoved the temperature up by more than 1.5 degrees. The key thing to grasp here is just how fast this is happening. That acceleration is everything.
What's really interesting here is how direct the source is in connecting our actions to the results. It's laid out as a super simple chain of events, right? We burn fossil fuels. That pumps out more CO2. That CO2 acts like a blanket, trapping more heat in the atmosphere. It's presented as a straightforward and, according to this text, pretty undeniable cause and effect.
And this number, 1.5 degrees Celsius, this is the milestone the source is flagging as absolutely critical. And the text really hammers this home. This isn't something that might happen in the future. It's where we are right now. It's our present reality. And the author is warning us, it's not stopping here.
So that brings us to the author's forecast for the pretty near future. The argument is basically that the momentum we have right now is just going to carry us right past another even more significant threshold, and it's happening fast. So what does that future actually look like?
Well, the prediction laid out is pretty stark. In less than 2 decades, we're on track to blow past 2 degrees of warming. And I know 2 degrees might not sound like a huge number, but the text identifies this as a critical tipping point. It's where the melting of glaciers and ice sheets really starts to accelerate, and that leads to some major sea level rise.
Okay, so what does a 2-degree world actually mean for us? For where we can live day to day? In this next part, the source shifts gears from just the numbers to the real-world impact, and it starts laying out what it calls the danger zones.
And for regions near the equator, while the assessment is incredibly blunt, it's not just going to be uncomfortable. The source calls it a death zone. The prediction is that these parts of the world could become fundamentally uninhabitable just because of the extreme heat.
And then you've got the second big threat: rising sea levels. To get this point across, the author uses this really shocking image. Inland properties will be beachfront properties. I mean, just think about that for a second. It's a statement that's clearly designed to completely shatter our idea of what coastal living even means, and just how big this change could be.
So, just to quickly recap the warnings here, the source is pointing to 2 main danger zones. First, you've got that extreme, potentially unlivable heat around the equator, and second, you've got the rising sea levels that are a threat not just to the immediate coasts, but to places way further inland.
All right, so after painting this really grim picture of the risks, the text pivots and starts to offer up a solution. It's framed as a personal strategy for survival, really, a guide for what the author keeps calling climate migration.
And the advice really just boils down to a simple 2-step strategy. The logic is super straightforward. If the place you're in is becoming too hot and too low, well, the solution is to move somewhere that's cooler and higher.
And the source gets pretty specific on both of those points. Geographically, it's talking about moving toward places that have always been cooler. Vertically, it's all about elevation, and the author actually gives us a very specific number to look for.
And here it is, 250 feet. According to this source, that's the minimum elevation you'll need to be safe from that predicted sea level rise. It's put out there as a really clear, actionable piece of advice. But here's the thing. This isn't just about one person or one family finding a safe spot to live. The source wraps things up by zooming way out, looking at the massive societal challenge that gets created when everybody starts trying to follow this same advice.
And the text makes a pretty staggering claim here, that as much as 1/3 of the entire world's population could be on the move, all of them looking for new, cooler, higher ground to call home. We're talking about a truly massive, unbelievable displacement of people.
And the term the author uses for this group is climate refugees. Just let that sink in for a second. A third of all humanity, all searching for safety and stability in a world that's changing incredibly fast.
Now, to put this potential future crisis into context, the source points to something we're already dealing with today. We already have conflicts over resources and livable land. So what do you think happens when you add billions of displaced people into that mix?
And this is exactly where the author leaves us. There's no easy answer here, just a final, really profound question. After laying out the problem and a possible solution for individuals, the text pivots to the huge collective challenge. It suggests that, while we might be able to plan for our own little piece of higher ground, the biggest question of all is how we, as a global community, are going to navigate a future where so many people are forced to move. That is a powerful thought to end on.